Episode 41 of the Habs Culture Podcast. My name is Marc Anthony Bertaja. I'm alongside Justin Schwartz. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have Marc Dumont, special contributor to the Montreal Canadiens. Thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Marc Anthony and Justin. How's it going? Actually, for those of you that don't know, right before the air, I screwed up Justin's name, so I was calling him Joshua or something. But now we're on good terms. We're all buddies here. I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm sure it's been a very hectic week up in the Montreal Canadiens. Trade deadline was yesterday, so obviously we're going to talk a bit about that. So right off the bat, first impressions, how do you think the Habs did?
Sorry. I lost you on that last piece of audio there. So, okay, sorry, guys. Okay, are you still recording? Keep recording, okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you why. You want my impressions? Literally, the Canadiens just released an article giving my impressions, so now I can talk about my actual impressions. Like, it just came out.
Okay, cool.
Like 10 seconds ago, so I actually got distracted there. I apologize. Now I'm all with you guys. But go check. Hey, this is a good time for a plug. Go check out the Montreal Canadiens, my article about Kent Hughes. Listen, I know I work for the Canadiens, but everyone I spoke to that doesn't work for the Canadiens loved it. And I'm talking about like just regular fans. I put up a poll and it was at 96% approval. Like, that's dead dictator numbers there. Like, that's like when they register dead people to vote. Like, that is that type of encouraging vibe from the fans right now. And it's not just the fans, it's not just the analysts. I think beyond the return, which is fantastic, there's a sense that Kent Hughes has really, first of all, he set his prices and he stuck to them. And I think the haul was just ridiculous. Like, that's the best deadline haul I've seen in a long time. What they got for Sherratt was a fantastic value deal. What they got for Lehkonen, I mean, I love Lehkonen. Y'all know how much I love Lehkonen. You can probably still see some tears in my makeup there because like, he was one of my favorite players, and Brett Kulak as well. But the returns they got, I mean, come on, you don't say no to that. However, other than the returns, the point I was trying to make there before I got lost in my own thoughts was I think Kent Hughes said about it the right way, in that he was very transparent with his players. He knew, let them know exactly what was going on, and he was very transparent with the coach. And that leads to a better image throughout the league, because then, like, you heard Ben Sherratt when he left, he's like, yeah, I'll sign back here in a minute. Lehkonen loved it here. Kulak loved it here. Even Toffoli loved it here. So I would dare say that there have been some unhappy divorces in the past, and now when players leave, they're like, hey, we understand, because there's open lines of communication. So that's a luxury that new GMs get to have, though. However, I would say the transparency has been fantastic. Just today, they had a live Q&A with fans, like, that's on Twitch. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? The Montreal Canadiens are on Twitch. So I think he's doing the right way. It's modern approach. There's still a lot of work to do, but I would say overall, you can't argue in good faith that Hughes has, like, he's hit a home run so far as his tenure at the GM. And I don't know what you guys think, but I find it hard to argue against the fact that he's done great.
Mark, if you don't mind me chipping in here, but I mean, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I don't think it could have gone very much better, in my opinion, at least. And to be honest with you, like, I know I follow your stuff on Twitter, like, losing Lehkonen, even for me, it started getting to me, and I was like, this guy provides so much to this team, like the nitty gritty details, like it's just what a player for his respective value. But you know what? I mean, again, the return, the Mark Barron, 2020 first round pick, and plus the second, and then the return for Kulak. I mean, I just really don't think that he could have capitalized it on it any better, to be honest.
No, I mean, do you guys remember what it was Matt Taormina, if I remember correctly, and Rinat Valiev, I believe, were the players they traded for Kulak at the time. And they were both, I was kind of upset they traded Taormina and Valiev, because Valiev was doing good in Laval, and Taormina was just, if you look up Matt Taormina's numbers, he was an AHL star. He was ridiculous how good he was in the AHL. He kind of disappeared after that. But they essentially turned two minor leaguers into a really good player. Like, they got value out of him, and then you flip them. Like, you can't say no to that. You absolutely can't say no to that. And it's not just that you flip him for good returns. Like, for example, Kulak, that's basically going home for him, right? So he like, you're improving your reputation across the league, and I think the Canadiens had to do that. They absolutely had to do that. So it's not just what they're doing for Montreal; it's what their reputation growing around the NHL. I think it's improving by leaps and bounds, and it's stuff like what Chantal Machabé is doing and what the marketing team is doing. But they're throwing me on Twitch. Like, isn't that cool at the trade deadline that I'm jumping on Twitch? I still can't believe it. That they're allowing me to do this or encouraging me to do this. So a lot of forward thinking recently, which hey, it was necessary, but overall, from top to bottom, I think the Canadians are kind of experience a renewal, like a rebirth into not relevancy, because they're always relevant, but just into the good graces of people, and it's good to see. It's good to feel like there's the Bell Center's rocking right now. The fans are having so much fun, and the Habs are still losing, but I mean, it's fun, and that's what matters. I think if you listen to the Q&A, Hughes hit on it hard. It's an entertainment business, and the Habs are very entertaining right now because of the moves they made, which includes Martin St. Louis, obviously.
Of course.
And talking a bit about reputation, and you guys can touch on this, of course, for Kent Hughes, a rookie GM, to come in and really set the market and set the price on his players and let GMs around the league know that this is my price. If you want to pay for it, call my phone. If not, then we'll just move on. And I think that people actually paid for it.
That's what I wrote in my article, saying like he's a rookie GM, but that was a veteran move.
Mm-hmm. I think he did very well. And look, we've mentioned this in the podcast before. We're loving the modern view of the Canadians now. Look, we've mentioned Twitch here before, but just being so open and expressing. He said he loved Kulak a few days ago in his press conference when he traded Sherrod. He said, "I love Kulak." Yeah. Could that have set the market? Who knows? But look, it's different.
I think he made it clear to all the other GMs that he knew the value, right? Like, okay, I'll give you a really example of how smart Kent Hughes is. So when he did his introductory presser, which was really cool, like they set up the Habs, it was really nice. Like that was the marketing team. I'll give them credit. They did actually, you know what? That was France Marguerite Bélanger, who's one of the most important people in our organization. She doesn't get much press or much credit, but France Marguerite Bélanger is just a driving force. She's intelligent. She's the most impressive person I've ever met in my life. Okay. I'm intimidated by 3 people that I've met in my hockey life. And it's not Wayne Gretzky or even when I met Maurice Richard or, I've been pretty lucky. One was Madame Béliveau. And I don't have to explain why. I mean, she's an angel. Yeah. She's just, she shared her husband with an entire nation. You know what I mean? Like that took a lot. She never really got to just have Jean to herself. So, and Le Gros Bill, as you guys know, is my favorite player. 2 is Caroline Ouellet, because she's just kick-ass. Like she's the best. I mean, I remember watching her just win gold medal after gold medal. And like, I know her. She's basically like a friend of mine, but man, she's just so cool and kick-ass. And the amount of good work she does for the future generation, like her hockey school she set up, for women, obviously, which is very important. We have to do a much better job supporting not just the women at the higher level, grassroots, but the program she set up and her tournament is now like the original members of the tournament when they were whatever 7 or 8 or 13, 14 or now have NCAA scholarships. You know what I mean? So that's like she's such a badass. Like she's just so cool. And the third is France Marguerite Bélanger, because she is so accomplished. Like she arranged the deal between Gillette and Molson. And then when it was done, Molson reached over the table and said, "Good job, come work for me. Like, I want you to work for the Canadians," So that's how impressive she is. And she's doing so much good work behind the scenes. She's part of the Board of Governors. She's the only woman, I believe, that's on the Board of Governors. She represents the Canadians. She's essentially the person that like signs off on most big things. So keep France Marguerite Bélanger in mind, because she's a very important member of the Montreal Canadiens. I just wanted to put that out there because no one talks about her.
Yeah,
Chantal Machabé, fantastic addition, but we also need to give a lot of credit to France Marguerite. She's just like, she's a superstar. She's just a superstar. Right. If you look up her accomplishments, she makes you feel so inferior. Like it's ridiculous how accomplished she is, and she's a nice person. She's smart. She's from Matane, which is one of my favorite places to go when I was younger. So really nice person too. So France Marguerite Bélanger, very important person in our organization.
I'll remember the name, that's for sure. Yeah. And just to add on to that, I mean, like you preached before transparency, and you know what, like I wrote a few papers now, like for my school, and we're talking about like in sport organizations, transparency is key. And I think that that's one thing that the Montreal Canadiens organization kind of lacked a little bit, and it bothered a lot of fans and it upset a lot of people. And I think that seeing now how in the direction that we're going in with the transparency, and not only that, but building upon a sense of credibility and how credible the main components within the organization have become, it's like a refreshing like view. It's a refreshing taste. So I think we're all pretty happy here.
Yeah, and absolutely I agree. Now, however, actually what I'll do, because I don't want to trash Bergevin too much, I think what happens is that after whatever 10 years, I mean less than a decade at a job, things become a little different, right? And he was actually fairly open to begin with. So if we actually go back about 10 years, Bergevin was doing a lot of the same openness thing. However, I will say this, it's difficult to maintain as the seasons go on. Okay, so I'm going to give not Bergevin a little credit. I'm going to maybe take some away from Hughes, which is a really smart thing for me to do as an employee. Just to say, but like he's taking the right steps. However, he even admitted it today. Like it's a lot easier at first. He's in the honeymoon period, right? The key is maintaining it as you go. However, it'll never stay at this level of transparency. It'll probably get a little bit murkier. But I think the key is after 5-10 years is to maybe not let the pressure kind of get to you. And just, sometimes when guys answer questions for so long, they're thinking about, instead of answering the question, they're thinking about why is this person asking the question? You're actually like trying to play 3D chess here, right? So that's tough to avoid. We'll see how Hughes deals with it in the future, but so far it's been great and refreshing. And it's not just a transparency with the fans, it's a transparency with the players. That's more important than the transparency with the fans. I know, and I'm like the ultimate, I love the fans, I think they deserve everything, but being upfront with the players, so important. And you saw when Sherrod got dealt, he was like, yeah, I knew about it. It wasn't like he didn't get Dantonov there, he didn't learn about it on Twitter, because that destroys a team. So very refreshing in that respect, that Hughes knows how to deal with players. He's built relationships throughout his entire career. That's what he's done with players. So he's a very good ad in that respect. That like coming straight from his talent as an agent, that's where you're getting that communication value.
100%.
Yeah, and the same page for Jeff Petrie, right? A guy who kind of knows where he stands, where if the deal's right, he'll get moved. But right now you're a Montreal Canadian, right? And you got to wear that jersey for the remaining 6 weeks, whatever there is left.
Yeah, and I mean, I like listen. I'd say forget about this season for Petrie, mulligan it. You know what I mean? And see what you get next year. You know what I mean? Like, and also during the presser, I think a lot of people misinterpreted what he said. In terms of like dealing Petrie, he used it as an example, so I don't think that's on the table. But I think we have to remember in Petrie's case, he gave Canadians like six like excellent undervalued, like overvalued deals in terms of what he got paid. So a little bit of a grace period is like now, for example, there was an OT loss the other night. Everyone's crapping on Petrie. I went back and reviewed it. I called a few hockey coaches just to make sure, professionals, and they're like, the only guy that's not at fault here is Jeff Petrie, because he was actually, that was his play to support the play, and he got back and he killed the passing lane. So, and then I go on Twitter and it's like, Jeff Petrie's the worst, like he's the blah, 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 so let's relax a little bit on Jeff Petrie. I get it. He's had a rough year, but who among us, right, hasn't had a rough year this year? I know I haven't certainly been at my best. And especially some of these guys that I don't know if he's had COVID or anything like that, but just the mental, he's not with his family right now. And it's been a rough couple of years for some of these athletes. So and just asset management, you don't want to trade him right now. It doesn't make sense, right? Like this is the only defenseman that had 40 points for 3 years running. Like he was the model of consistency. He didn't just forget how to play hockey. So I'd hold off on, if I was Hughes, I'd hold off on even considering moving Petrie. But I'm sure he's been honest with Petrie about it, and that's the key part.
Yeah, and we know you're a big Lehkonen guy, so we just want to know: do you think now that it's all said and done, that the value of Lehkonen in the trade market was higher than the value of him in the locker room?
Like, I actually think it just matched.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'll tell you right now, I spent a lot of time in press boxes, and I have a huge mouth, right? So I end up talking to like a bunch of GMs and a bunch of scouts, and they always come straight to me to be like, hey nerd, like tell me about the numbers. And they're like, tell me about Lehkonen. But like, that's all they want to know is about Lehkonen. I got inquired by like and you know what's funny about all this? My ex-colleague, I used to run a blog called Habs Eyes on the Prize. And my ex-colleague, Eric Pernas, now works, he's the director of analytics for the Colorado Avalanche. And me and him used to just rave about Lehkonen. So like he knew what he was asking Sakic to go get there, but everyone loved him, and he was such a hard worker. Like I think this year when the chips were down, let's say when we're in the Duchamp era, Anderson was almost there every night, but Lehkonen was there every night, no matter what, and I think Lehkonen's a great litmus test for hockey IQ. And I know this sounds super arrogant, but if you look at Lehkonen and you say, oh, he's just defensive, he can't score, I probably wouldn't hire you for my research and development team, in hockey. I think a lot of the reactions to saying, oh, he'll get a first rounder, which he essentially did, and a second, people mocking it was people reading Hockey DB. There are very few people that bring his defensive awareness with his offensive value at 5-on-5, right? Like, it's not the 80s anymore. You don't score 90 points playing on the third and fourth line while playing PK and no power play, right? So his 5-on-5 minutes were like first or second line throughout his entire career.
Right.
This year he was scoring like above so many good players at 5-on, like above guys like Taylor Hall. But you would never say that Lehkonen's a better offensive guy than Taylor Hall. It's just that he's so valuable defensively and he's so versatile. You want to play him against your best players. And like you mentioned there, locker room's important. These guys loved him. He was just a good dude. Him and Gallagher had this fun, like, not bitter rivalry, but like a fun rivalry going on. So that being said, I mean, Justin Barron, point per game, 0.5 point per game guy. Hey, says in the AHL as a rookie. I think he's shown a ton of resilience. Good skater. The resilience. I mean, this guy went through blood clots when he was in Halifax. Leadership too. He was the captain there. I spent some time with Gooley in the world, like right-handed defense. He checks a lot of boxes. He's got that heavy shot, like that Al McInnes, or sorry, maybe for your generation, I probably the Sheldon Surrey. Does that ring a little bit of a better? I was gonna say Al Iafredi, but no one knows about the mullet. Right? Is that a name that you guys recognize?
We've seen it for All-Star games. We've seen the clips.
Okay, yeah. Like the most amazing skullet. It's a skullet there that Al Iafredi had. He would always win the hardest shot competition. Like he would blow Chera and Weber out of the water if it came today, but. Anyways, he's got that like thud, heavy shot, good skater. I would say that his development draft plus 2 years has just been excellent. Like he's in the 90th percentile for most things. So Justin Barron was a great get. And then you recover your original costs in a second rounder, right? Like, and also it's deferred. What I like here with Hughes, he's not just stacking next year or the year after that. Like he's getting 22, 23, 24, right? So that ensures your pipeline is going to keep going. That ensures that you have enough ice time. That ensures you have enough contracts. That ensures that, it's better to stagger. Like they have 22 picks in the next couple of years. Like it's great there, but you have to have somewhere for them to play. So I think he's doing a great job in terms of foresight when it comes to accumulating all those picks like they got from Lehkonen. But I mean, he'll be missed so much. He'll be missed so much. Like even yesterday, I'm like, oh my God, this would be a great game for Lehkonen to be in. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I just really wish people would start to acknowledge a little bit more the value of players rather than just look at Hockey DB, because that's what you get with a guy like Lehkonen. And you know what? He's going to go on to pull an Eller and win a cup as a third liner and probably have a nice little career with an amazing team. And I wish him nothing but the best. And he gave a lot of good to Montreal. And we got a great return. Like it's all good. Absolutely. But it's a pretty good example of hockey DBism, as I would call it. Is a lot of people criticize Lehkonen. My friends on the local radio station criticized him a lot too. And now you're seeing what the people in the know that have all that data thought about him. He was probably the most sought after. I mean, in terms of his point, like, yeah, other guys got probably better return. Like Giroux probably got the best return, I'm guessing.
Probably.
Hagel, pretty good. Lehkonen, for a guy that's not on a contract, that's 26. I think he got a ridiculous return.
Yeah. And kind of just to add on to what you were saying before, like the hockey DBism, like it's funny because to me, like I appreciate like Lehkonen like crazy, and like if there's one guy in that same stratosphere, I'll say is like Jake Evans. Like you don't know how good a player like Jake Evans is until you actually watch Montreal Canadiens games, right? And I feel like there's a lot of players for different teams, like whether it's the Bruins or whether it's the Panthers, and like their fans are probably saying the same thing about certain players. But for us, and like what you're kind of saying about Lehkonen and like how not undervalued, but like underrated he is, like at 5-on-5 is incredible. So like, I mean, like what a return.
Like
and
first
I think
line
it's
numbers at 5-on-5, like first
there
line numbers. And every time someone says that, they're like, oh, why are you taking away power play? He doesn't play on the power play, man. Like, like Why doesn't he score more? I don't know. Maybe because all he does is play defensive duties. But even then, that argument is wrong. It's like you said, 5-on-5 contributions are ridiculous. Like it's
underrated.
Seriously, like people are like, oh, what if you ask for $4 million? If you ask for $4 million a year, you try not to laugh. Like as you're handing him the contract, you're like, we love you, Arturi. You know. So I bet you we're gonna see a Lehkonen extension ASAP from Colorado. Like they're gonna want him long term.
And I mean,
it'll be like 4.5. It'll be worth it.
For sure. And I mean, like, look, and sorry, Mark, before you go, but like, look at what DeBrusk just got. I mean, and look, again,
I didn't see what did DeBrusk get.
He got a 2 times 4. He got $4 million a year for 2 years. I mean, like for me at least, for what Lehkonen provides, at 5-on-5. I mean, I'll take that all day. And like you said, like I try not to laugh, to be honest with you.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, that's the other part is that. I mean, DeBrusk has okay. I mean, his 5-on-5 numbers aren't even close to being.
They don't match.
Right. But like his production, not even close. His underlyings are actually pretty good. Now, here's what was cool about Lehkonen. While the Habs were in the Duchamp era, his expected goals for was like 57%. The next closest guy in the team was like 42%. It was like I'm like, who's he playing with? Like, how is this happening? Because usually you'll see like 3 guys will rise to the top, but his numbers this year, even at one point, I was embarrassed to point it out in an article because I didn't want to embarrass everyone else. You know what I mean? I'm gonna put it that way. So, Arturi Lehkonen to me is a litmus test of, and this is so insulting, but I was gonna say of hockey intelligence, but that's mean. It's whether or not. No, that's mean too.
But I think you're right. I think
it's a litmus test. It's a litmus test for hockey. Let's put it that way. Yes.
No, but if you can watch Arturi Lehkonen play a good game of hockey consistently night after night at 5-on-5, and you're gonna come to me and tell me that this guy is not an incredible all-around hockey player, like you're lying, or you just don't know hockey. It's the truth.
Well, or like one of the funny things I always saw was people were like, oh well, you know, if he scored on every opportunity he got, he'd be a lot better. Like, yeah, man.
Sure, of course he would.
A really good point.
And the thing,
if baseball players did a home run every time, they'd have more home runs. I'm just
in the Hall of Fame.
You know what I mean? And it was always funny to me. I'm like, yeah, but you see, he's getting those chances, right? Like, he's like the polar opposite of Byron. Byron doesn't get a ton of chances, but he capitalized. Lehkonen got a ton, but he didn't. But I still want that guy that creates a ton. You know what I mean? Like that's the logic here is, and also the other part with Lehkonen is that people is a perception thing. Is that they didn't realize how hard he worked because he wasn't flailing around like a moron. He was ahead of the play. He was anticipating the play, but he was working super hard. But he wasn't like chasing and hitting guys 5 seconds after they lost the puck. He's a smart player. So perception had something to do with it. But all this to say, your point about Jake Evans, which is I think what you meant to talk about before I brought it back to Lehkonen. He's another favorite of mine. I'm going to say the other way around. Like we were criticizing the eye test. Now the numbers, a lot of my fellow nerds really criticized the Evans extension. And they're like, this guy's a scrapple below replacement, blah, blah, blah. And I sent them a message. I'm like, hey, first of all, do you want to see my numbers in the AHL? Because this guy was rocking like a 75% Corsi and 80% goals, expected goals. So like really good numbers in the AHL. And that's at like a 300 or 200 game sample size. So good value. And they're basing all this, their projection that he's bad on like 10 games at the end of a bad season. You know what I mean? Like where he was just getting caved in playing with a couple, you know, not the most skilled teammates. His quality of teammates was bad. And so that was an example of when analytics go wrong or data analysis goes wrong, because you need the context of like, yeah, absolutely. You can't delve into each and every player, but if you're going to go and pronounce that this player is a bad value signing, you need to dig deeper than 11 NHL games. You know what I mean? Come see me and ask me about his AHL numbers. I have them. Because then when he pulls out a 50% numbers, which is very good for his role, especially since they're projecting him as way below replacement, you look foolish. You know what I mean? So those player cards that we see, they're great. They require context in some cases. And Evans is a very good case that if you didn't watch him in the AHL, you probably would have had a pretty negative response to his first 10 NHL game, the numbers of his first NHL games. But again, like I don't want to criticize these analysts too much because they do great work. You can't cover everything perfectly. But to me, the numbers, data analysis is great. You have to combine it with video. You have to. Like, tell me why. Tell me where he's going. You know what I mean? And again, I don't want to be that old man that's like, it's just one part of the deal, but it really is. You have to have the backup to it, the video. They go hand in hand. Show me why these numbers exist. And that's really hard to do if you're covering the entire NHL. So I understand why not everyone does it, but to me, it's essential.
His progression has been just amazing. Like it felt like yesterday watching him at Notre Dame in the Frozen Four. Then he went to Laval.
Scoring crucial goals.
Yeah, he played so well at Notre Dame.
Tying goals, OT goals, like
it's too bad they lost in the final. I thought they were gonna go all the way. But yeah, then in Laval, it just that type of guy, even Joel Bouchard was praising him and it's like so excited to get into the NHL, and he just made that jump, and now he's just so solid, man.
Yeah, no, and he's smart. He's smart. Like I remember the first time Jake Evans actually had the first locker as soon as he came into the Laval Rocket locker room, and like he had to see me every morning. It sucked for him because I was basically 90% of the time I was the only guy there, which was amazing, by the way. Anyone who wants to break into journalism, beg the Laval Rocket for some credentials. Like obviously you have to find an outlet, but the access is fantastic. And so I started writing articles about him, obviously, and we kind of became like buddy after that. And I remember asking him, like, tell me about you. What stands out? What's your greatest skill? He's like, I don't really have one. I'm like, cool. This guy's not going to make it in the NHL. But like, I was a huge Evans fan too. And like, I was really propping up. I'm like, buddy, you got to. And I'm like, maybe this guy doesn't have confidence, maybe that's it. And then I'm like, what's your biggest weakness? He's like, oh, I don't have one. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm starting to see what you're saying here. He's just that classic, well-rounded guy, but it's his intelligence. It's his ability to take instruction and actually apply it, take theory and put it into practice that Jake Evans has done so well. And he's a good guy. Like we talk about good people in the NHL, probably a little too much. A guy does one nice thing and we're like, oh my God, but Jake Evans is genuinely like a really good guy. So yeah, I'm a big Evans booster.
And talking a bit about Laval, we'll switch topics here. For the Canadians now, they're not making the playoffs. Laval is, though.
How dare you?
I don't even. Are they mathematically eliminated yet? No, not yet.
No. I was gonna be all nerdy. Technically, all eliminations mathematic, right at that point. But no.
Yeah.
They can still make it. You know what's funny? Even Hughes and Gordon today were like,
yeah,
we're not making. They admitted it, so that's nice to see. Yeah.
So are there players on the Canadiens that you have? And I think the question was asked to Kent.
Maybe Schoenemann?
Yeah, just Schoenemann, right?
But like even then, like I guess it depends because don't forget Laval's actually hit with a bit of a string of injuries recently. That's what we saw they just signed a couple guys. I believe Troy Dello also went down. Maybe Schoenemann. Like some people asked about Caulfield, but nah, we're past that. Don't forget Caulfield had a hell of a last 2 years. Like he was NCAA. And then he had World Juniors, NCAA again, Laval, Montreal. Very short summer. Like here's the other part is I remember returning to work and I was like, oh my God, what the hell just happened there? Like I felt like we worked really late last year. Like it's great going to the Cup final, but when you're back at work like a couple weeks later for an entire year, that's and plus we worked like straight through COVID. So it was essentially like 2 years straight for us and also for him because then short break. Back to the Habs, rough start. Laval again. Now he's feeling it. I say you stop messing with his mojo. You know, let him I was gonna say retire in peace, but let him kind of have a good summer and maybe Schoenemann, maybe Dauphin, Schoenemann. Maybe Pez, but like I feel Pez earned. You ask them, and I bet you Pez will want to. But also, you don't want to remove the dynamic in Laval either, right? So if they need players, yes. Maybe Schoenemann, maybe Pez, and probably Dauphin.
And what's the deal with Perreault? Because he cleared waivers, but he can't play. Can he play in Laval?
He can play.
Okay.
I believe. I don't want to speak on this officially, and actually, I meant to say this at the beginning of the podcast. I these are all my opinions, and these are all obviously my point of views, not if anything official from the Canadians. I believe they're looking for perhaps different avenues in Perreault's case. Great guy. I mean, when he signed here, the Canadians were in a different situation, so things happen. I think that they'll do their best to kind of find him perhaps a new opportunity, but I'm not quite sure what's going on there, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Okay, yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, you talked about Pez. I mean, I don't know, like what a story that guy is. Like, I'm so happy he actually made the team. Like, I love watching him play. Like, he's just the definition of work for your spot type of thing, So
he would. It's crazy. I was the first at practice every morning. However, I was there with a coffee and like a a breakfast sandwich. You know what I mean? Like I was so, and he would jump on the ice 15 minutes early every single day. You know, he really worked for it. And then, you know, Bouchard did a lot of good things for a lot of players, but I'm not going to give him credit for Pezzetta. Pezzetta gets credit for Pezzetta because even though Pezzetta worked really, really hard, he did everything asked of him. His minutes actually continuously declined, and so did his games. And that's really frustrating at his age, especially given his role, right? Like you start to worry. So Pezzetta there were some dark moments for him. He was a bit worried about his future, but he worked through it. And like you said, he's just the epitome of, you know, like giver and you'll get there type of thing. So I love the guy. And I mean, who else really gets that little bit of a Chris Nyland vibe going on with the fans, right? Like that's, to me, that's really, really important. So big fan of Pezzetta. And also, like, he's a good dude too. We don't talk about that a lot, and some people don't think about that when it's like tough guys, but Pez is just an amazing guy. I'm a big Michael Pezzetta fan because, again, he worked hard, so Pezzetta gets credit for Pezzetta.
I like that.
Yeah. And I have a quick question because it just popped in my head. Ryan Poehling, because I know it's a team you follow, Laval Rocket, closely. Yeah. And Poehling's been a guy where he's shown very, very good flashes at the National Hockey League level. Mm-hmm. Do you see him as a concrete NHL player?
Yeah. Okay. And this is, we're going to flip it over because I just took away credit from Bouchard for Pezzetta. I'll give Bouchard credit for Poehling. Fun little story here. When I was with the Athletic, again, I was in Laval every morning, and Bouchard eventually, like, I spoke to Poehling. This is after he got sent down, right? So he was expecting to make it in camp, but after his 4-goal game, but then he got injured and all that fun stuff. So he was disappointed. And Bouchard used to always say, like, if players are happy with being in the AHL, they're liars or idiots. You know, like, it's as simple as that, especially if you're a first rounder. But Bouchard really worked with him. And at one point, I wrote like 4 stories in a week. My bosses asked, and even I told my bosses, I'm like, this is like, there were no other stories going on right then, right? Like, there was no one else really to talk about, if we're being perfectly honest. And I even told, I'm like, I think this is too much. There's nothing left to write. But hey, here I go again, writing a Ryan Poehling story. And then his coach basically like gave me the whole like leave Brittany alone type of thing. He's like, listen, we just have to. He's talking to the whole scrum. There was actually a bunch of people for once. He's like, you know, so one of the things with Ryan Poehling, then he like zooms in on me there. You know, he's like, I think we need to kind of relax and give Poehling a chance, and like just like nailing me with the eye contact, right? And I'm the kind of guy that like I'll lock back on. So me and Bouchard were just like stuck in this scrum, and like everyone's like, "The hell is happening here?" Like, you know what I mean? So, and that's just a level of respect I'll give to Bouchard too. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna look at my feet when he's basically saying like, "Leave my player alone." So, I wrote that story. I left him alone, and I think that Ryan Poehling did a great job readjusting his expectations. Obviously, he wanted to be in the NHL, but he matured as a person and a player, and that's so normal at his age. It's so normal. And when Bouchard told me to leave him alone, he also said, like, hey, guys, we got to stop. This isn't Connor McDavid. You know what I mean? Which is fair, which is very fair to say. Like, that wasn't trying to be insulting. So I will give Bouchard credit for maybe resetting the pendulums there. And he did a lot of great work with Ryan Poehling. But again, we have to give Poehling credit for doing that hard work too, you know, and people were way too harsh, I think, to start off with. The expectations were way too high with those 4 goals. But I think he's got a really, like, I'm probably pegging him as a third liner for now, and we'll see above that. But I think he's been playing smart hockey, very smart hockey. Well, at one point in the AHL, he's trying to deke 4 guys at once. Now he's using his team. He's skating very well. Unfortunately, a couple injuries here and there, but I really like what I'm seeing from Ryan Poehling.
Absolutely. And I kind of just, because you were just talking about, like, we were talking about Pezzetta, we were talking about Poehling, and like guys that, you know, adjust to maybe like a different style, environment, like type of thing. And I just wanted to talk about St. Louis for a second. Obviously, the production is obvious, and I'm not even going to ask you like what you think about it, but I just wanted to know, like, what do you think that, like, what's the best thing that you believe or that you've seen that he's implemented into, I guess, the system, or maybe, or no system at all? It, like, what has he done that has really caught your eye, that has really kind of like switched gears for this Montreal Canadiens team?
I think he actually removed some system, if you know what I mean. I feel at one point the Canadiens, their defensive system was so contrived, it collapsed into a man-on-man, and then when they got near the net, it became a zone, but then it actually brought back to man-on-man if the puck went behind the net. But then it, like, You know, like these guys are smart, but you got to let them play on instinct. And I think that's one of the key things that Martin Saint Louis did is he said, like, okay, why are these guys in the NHL? Because they're the best in the world, right? It's as simple as that. So if you actually allow them to rely on their talent, the confidence goes up. And when the confidence goes up, the fun happens. And now they remember, like, all these guys started in an outdoor rink at one point, no money involved. You know what I mean? Just the sound of pucks hitting a board and like echoing into the pine trees. You know, that sound of like fresh skates on the ice, cutting into like bitter cold, or maybe the ice is a little too cold. You know, painting the boards with the puck, that kind of stuff. Like, you know, your nose is way too cold, your skates, your feet are way too cold. Mom wants to call you in, but you're staying out an extra 30 minutes to shoot some pucks. And that was the fun. That's why they fell in love with the game. And I think he kind of reminded them, like, this is why you fell in love with the game, guys. It's fun. And to get to that fun, he promoted the skill, the natural instinct. And to me, that was the most important thing. And I mean, when you look at a guy like St. Louis, you got to listen to him. He's won everything. And keep in mind, like, this is a guy that was a finalist for a Hobie Baker, if I remember correctly. Didn't get drafted, you know, then got like, he went through a kind of a rough start. So how do you not listen to Martin St. Louis? You have to. And he doesn't demand respect, and this is a very important distinction. He commands respect, and that's very important.
Yeah.
Is he someone that you've spoken to like a lot, or since he's fairly
new?
No.
No. Actually, the team's kept me at bay. He's been really busy with like. Here's the thing: is that not only did he take over mid-season as a rookie coach, which goes to show give people opportunities and they might succeed. We also have obligations to certain rights holders and whatnot. So sometimes you kind of fall to the back of the line there, but that's fine. Yeah. I'll speak to him in the future. But no, honestly, one-on-one, I haven't spoken to him yet. No, not at all. Yeah. He's literally the only guy in the organization I haven't spoken to. So yeah, sorry about that. I have nothing to add there.
No worries.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
But in terms of Hughes and Gorton, you've spoken to them as well?
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. No, well, Hughes, yes. Not
cool.
Jeff Gordon. We're organizing something for Gordon. Obviously, I've been involved with some of the media things, but I haven't like sat down with him. Hughes, yes, but not Gordon. No.
Okay, cool.
Gordon was good on that Twitch today. He looked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some jokes.
No, he's well, exactly. Their their dynamic is fun. They're having like it's I'm a big fan of it. Yeah, exactly.
So we'll end it off on this topic, and I don't know how much you follow, but we just wanted to get a little opinion on the draft because the Canadians are going to have a nice spot in the top 5, hopefully. Well, it's looking like that. Who's your guy? And maybe it's going to be the 3rd overall pick. Maybe it's going to be the 2nd. Who knows what it's going to be? Is it Slavkovsky? Is it Wright? Do you have a preference?
Well, you know what's funny? They spoke a lot about right-handed defensemen today.
Oh, you think it might be a defenseman?
Would it be?
Well, I'm just saying. There's a guy in the top 5 who I really like.
Is it Nemec? Is that his name?
I mean, listen, I'm not saying this is who they're going to draft, but they did mention, and Justin Barron was very much like they were looking for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's a right hand, and they mentioned it was an organizational need. It is like the toughest spot to fill. Like the Habs were so fortunate for so long because they had Petrie and Weber, but everyone else, you know, the Oilers dealt Petrie, and then for the rest of their lives, they've been looking for a right-handed defenseman to replace Petrie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think for sure it's Nemec, but like if they fall to 3, Slavkovsky for sure great too. You got to look at Logan Cooley too, right?
Yeah.
I'm not so hot on Mathieu Savoie, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Oh, okay.
Connor Gecky, I think, will actually be, and the Habs probably will be already out of that range by then. You know, I think. Very, very exciting prospect as well. But hey, I mean, you want Shane Wright, eh? You want Shane Wright.
Right, yeah.
A lot of people, it's weak. No, man, he's been super good. Like, yeah, he's not a generational guy, but you can't get that every year. The generational guy is next year. But Shane Wright's been fantastic. And everyone is like, oh, it's a weak draft. Man, stop talking about a weak draft a year before it happens because you don't know until 10 years after. Like, you can say perhaps there's not as much top-end talent. Sure, that'll accept. But this whole I declare it a weak draft. Get out of here with that junk.
Well, look at the Elias Pettersson draft, right? Like, I mean, like
what a weak draft,
right? You wouldn't have known until now, but now you look at some of the players that were drafted in the mid first round, and you're like, oh, like what a stacked deep draft, if you will. So, you know,
yeah, and I mean, always be weary of when there's one guy. What I've learned is that when it comes to prospect analysis, the best you get is from teams. Like, and I'm not talking hockey teams specifically. I mean, like for example, my friends, who they are my friends, I'll admit it, at hockeyprospect.com, they have people everywhere, like whether it's Europe or Quebec or NCAA, but they go see games. So when it's one person, like basically grading 600 kids, like stop. You know what I mean? Like, it's great that you have your opinion on this, but yeah, you know, so you're actually somehow getting better knowledge than a group of like highly trained professionals that attend every single game, or hockey teams, which is the exact same thing. No, listen, and I'm not saying that amateur guys or single, you know, prospect experts are bad, but they're like, it's literally impossible to cover every one of these kids in depth and do your due diligence in every single one of these kids. So when someone says weak draft, yeah, I have a hard time, especially when it's one of those, like, I don't consult anyone else and my prospect rankings are the way it goes. Yeah, honestly, I don't put very much value in that at all. I'll be perfectly honest. And that's just having spent, I know how much time goes into it. Like, I know how much time goes into it. And once you bring all those scouts in, then there's debate, right? Like, that's the other part, is the healthy debate once you bring in all that information from different areas. So there's none of that pushback when it's a single amateur scout. And let's be perfectly honest, that's what it is, right?
Right. Well, right now there's two directors, right? For Montreal, they brought in
Barbashev
from the Rangers.
I forget it.
I'm trying to look for it now.
I know this because I'm an employee. Barbashev, right? Isn't that his name? No, not Barbashev.
Bobrov, could it be?
Bobrov. Oh my God, that was so like crappy of me to just. Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, he plays for the Blues now. Apparently, yeah, exactly.
Barbashev.
Ivan Barbashev has like transitioned into. Yeah, exactly. No, but Bobrov and also Martin Lapointe's involved in it too. So yeah. I think one of the things that Hughes mentioned today is he's got to get, like, now they have a ton of scouts. And here's the other part. Like, it's great that the Habs did well at the deadline. Now you have to hit, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you look back at it, they missed on a lot of first rounders. We can be perfectly honest here. That's what hurt them. So now they have an opportunity to rectify that and add that depth, because you want guys like Jake Evans coming through your ranks. You don't want to pay for guys like Jake Evans, which, Jake, I'm sorry, buddy. I don't mean to be saying this, but you don't want to pay assets for a guy like Jake Evans. Like, that'll be third or fourth line. You want to develop them in-house. Yes, you want to. Yeah, you do want to spend assets, draft picks, and development. That's where you want to spend your assets. You don't want to have to buy him from someone else, you know, or you want to see guys like Raphaël Harvey-Pinard come in and make an impact. You want to see guys like Corey Schooneman come in and make an impact. Not all-stars, but depth guys that are produced by your AHL team, and that's the way it needs to go. So the Canadiens will have a chance to not just hit on some high-end picks, like 4 first rounders in 2 years is amazing. But fill their depth ranks as well, and you know, restock Laval with a lot of talent, which is, we're starting to see the fruits of the labor in Laval. Like, it takes a long time to change things up. So far, so good in that respect.
And maybe we'll find another Lehkonen, hopefully. But I don't know if you can.
There will never be another Lehkonen.
I don't think there. Unfortunately. But yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, like, it's you know, like, that's the problem, right? It's like you can have 25 out of 30 draft picks in the first round, but if you, I mean, obviously that's an exaggeration. But if you don't hit, you don't hit.
Like Senyshyn and like who else did they go there?
They went Senyshyn. I think they took DeBrusk there too.
DeBrusk was there, yeah.
And Zaboral and DeBrusk.
I mean, DeBrusk.
Yeah, okay, DeBrusk, but you know,
and like Barzal and like
Cal Connor.
Yeah, and didn't they just trade Senyshyn for like pennies on the dollar?
Yeah. I think to, was it, no, not Vegas. Anyway, I'm blanking, but
and they're gonna trade DeBrusk.
Ottawa.
And they're gonna trade DeBrusk. Yeah. And did Zaboral ever like?
Honestly, I
what anyway, a miss, eh?
That's a massive miss.
And what was that? Was that right after they got rid of Gordon as their director of scouting? Is that?
I think so.
Is that how that happened?
Is that a tell? Who knows?
And I know you guys have to wrap up, but what was really cool, I think, with bringing in Gordon was that he's got a bit of a track record with Boston. He did the slow, smart rebuild. You know, like, he's the one that essentially went out and figured out. Like, he signed obviously Patrice to that extension, that really good extension. He's the one that moved up to go get Marchand, right? So like he built the core there. And then with what he did with the Rangers under a short amount of time, and they started making big mistakes after he left. I thought was impressive because it was kind of like an on-the-fly rebuild. So I felt like he's pretty versatile in both those respects, which the Canadians hadn't really picked where they're going yet. I think they're going to go with more of the traditional slow and low, like slow cooker approach there. You know what I mean? Makes the best meats. But yeah, I think Hughes is Gordon was a smart choice as the VP there, because like he gives that veteran knowledge to a guy like Kent Hughes, who like he's been impressive, but he's still a rookie, right? So they've insulated him pretty well.
Sure. And he was the go ahead, Mark.
No, I don't think we mind the slow rebuild. I think if the Canes want to be successful for 15 years in a row, I think you gotta take it slow and not rush it. Look at the Senators; they're slowing down. Is it because they couldn't add veteran?
No, isn't it? No, but the Senators rebuild, isn't it done now? This is supposed to be their first year of a run of unparalleled success. Unparalleled success.
Yeah.
I think saying Habs fans won't tolerate a rebuild is a bad excuse.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrible.
Yeah, they absolutely will. You know what? I think I spoke to a lot. Like that's one of my I don't know if I can announce this yet, but actually I won't. Anyhow, I interact with fans a lot, and the Canadians love that, right? So, obviously, I take the pulse of fans, and I heard from a lot of hockey people that Habs fans won't tolerate a rebuild, but I heard from Habs fans that, like, what do you like? Stop blaming us.
Mm-hmm.
We won't absolutely tolerate a rebuild. Like, what are you talking about? This whole one leg in, one leg out thing. Like, they're absolutely, as long as it's done the right way. I think Habs fans, it's insulting to say they won't tolerate a rebuild. Like, it's insulting to their intelligence. It's insulting to their patience. Yeah, there's going to be a bunch that, like, yeah, sure, there's millions of us. And there's some of us that are crazy, some of us that are loud, some of us are mean. But the vast majority will tolerate a rebuild. However, got to be fun, right? And that's what we're seeing. It's fun right now with St. Louis and Caulfield and Suzuki. Like, the Bell Center right now is as fun as it was during the playoff run last year. And I was really lucky to be at all those games. And I'll say the atmosphere is like they're the last place in the team, and it's the best atmosphere in the league. Last place in the league. I'll try that one more time. The Montreal Canadiens are in the last place in the league. Oh, man. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to nail it this time. The Montreal Canadiens are the last place team in the league. However, the atmosphere at the Bell Center is the best in the league, bar none. Like, bar none. You know, teams like Carolina wish they had our 32nd overall atmosphere. You know what I mean? They try to put it through their speakers, but we produce it naturally. So I would say that that's a really good sign for the Montreal Canadiens, is that the fun is back, the enthusiasm, the fact that we're focusing on the future, but we're doing it the right way. Habs fans will tolerate that, and I think it was using an excuse for way too long. And it's time. It's time to do it. So I will give credit to, like, for example, Molson actually, Jeff Molson invested a fair amount in that cup run. Like, they kind of went for it. And I do give them credit because I think it was time to do it. You know what I mean? Like, but then this summer, things got a little convoluted after the cup run and things got a little crazy. However, I will absolutely praise them pushing to get to the cup final. I think that was the right thing to do. They had assembled a team. You know, we might not see Weber again. Price, obviously, is taking care of his health, because we have to remember mental health is the entire body, right? So, or just, body health includes the mind. So, I think that was the right time to do it. And I think now is the right time, obviously, to hit that reset button. They don't want to use the word, but we all know what's going on.
Yeah, of course. And especially with such a great foundation, right? Like, we talk about, like, keeping a few locker room presences and having that core foundation, like those cornerstone pieces like Suzuki, Caulfield, Anderson, Romanov, like, list goes on, and I'm not going to go on to say it, but I mean, I think we understand that, like, they have that foundation, and now it's time to use those draft picks, hit on those draft picks, and turn the franchise around. I mean, it doesn't have to be next year, but over the course of the next few years, and maybe see that joy on a 10x. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the other side of it. And again, I speak just for myself, right? I don't speak on behalf of the Montreal Canadiens. Like, what happens when you trade Toffoli is, you get a first, you get a guy that can skate and score in Heineman, but it means your roster is a little worse this year and next year. You lose Sherratt, you lose Lehkonen, your roster is going to be worse next year. You lose Kulak, your roster is going to be worse next year. And that's not the worst thing for the Montreal Canadiens right now. Like, I really do think that another bad year would be a good year, in my opinion, going forward. So there's going to be more pain. And today Hughes admitted, he's like, things will get worse, and I'm okay with that because fans are passionate. Or he said things won't always be so amazing. He admitted it, like it's a honeymoon period right now, and Benjamin had this honeymoon period as well. That being said, I really I'm excited for the draft this year, but next year I think the Habs probably won't be fighting for a Stanley Cup, but they'll have pretty good odds to pick up some very good players next year too. And I think that was part of the plan.
Yeah, and fingers crossed that Florida has a bit of an iffy season next year, right? That unprotected.
Not gonna happen, man. No, like I'm also here's a hey, good point though.
Yeah,
Florida, Tampa, Toronto.
I think we could talk about that for half an hour if you want.
We're gonna yeah, the Habs are gonna end up winning as many rounds as Toronto this year. But Florida and Tampa, I mean Florida, I read something the other day. It's like they have 13 stars on the legitimate stars on the roster. I'm like, no, that, and then I started looking. I'm like, damn, yes, they do. So you even heard Hughes and Gordon today mention. Actually, I don't know if you guys heard them. That was they had a Stanley Cup season ticket holder Twitch before they did the live one with the public. But they mentioned Florida as a team they really wouldn't like. They love their offense, and right now Florida's loading up. It's an arm race in the Atlantic, so all the teams are loading up, and there can only be one, right? So no matter what, 66% of those teams, or 2 out of 3, sorry, spent the assets for nothing. Meanwhile, the Canadians avoid that arms race, and what a good year to be a seller. Like the Canadians made 5 deals, and they got 2 firsts, 2 seconds, a third, a fourth, a fifth,
7th.
I think. I don't know.
Sure, why not? No fifth, a little disappointing. And then in the Ty Smilanic, Justin Barron, and Emil Heineman. Like that's 5 deals. That's 5 trades. Oh, and also let's add Andrew Hammond for Nate Schnarr, which I mean, hey, that's still kind of a big win because they still youngish, decent prospect for a guy that they signed for emergency or traded for emergency and don't need anymore. And they trade for Brandon Baddock, who, by the way, Brandon Baddock, nicest guy you'll ever meet. Like
really,
he'll beat the crap out of you if you're on the other team, but like he is so nice. I'm a big fan of Brandon Baddock. But all that to be said, a lot of quality picks coming up from the Montreal Canadiens, and in just such a short span, right? Like I honestly haven't, like, everyone's talking about Seattle right now. They didn't pick up another first rounder. You know what I mean? Like no other team has 2 or 4 in the next, and the Hagel deal was pretty good, but like we're talking about what, like 30th and 32nd overall picks there type of thing. So I think the Montreal Canadiens are probably, like, statistically, and I'm going to run the numbers, but I know they have the most picks, and I think they have the most quality in terms of quality. So it's quantity and quality, which, I mean, it's like when you're buying mangoes at the grocery store. You want both. You want quantity and quality.
Absolutely.
And I know he's a rental, but the former Vezina Trophy winner, the guy won last year, just went for a conditional first. Like, he didn't even go for a straight up first. There's a condition.
Well, yeah, but I actually thought that was a really expensive price for Fleury.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I mean, he's a 908 goalie. Like, Allen's a 905 goalie. Like, what are we doing here?
Allen's so good.
Yeah, well, I actually think that a lot of, but I will say this, in the playoffs, this is where it's all bets are off, man. Like, it's not a math test in the playoffs anymore, right? It's a different kind of test. It's one where passion has a funny way of trumping logic, right? And Marc-André Fleury has that passion, and he knows. And I know this bothers a lot of people to say, but he has that winning experience. He has that when it comes down to the playoffs. This is where it really matters, because then you can settle people down and be like, "Hey guys, like, don't worry about it. Like, there's a couple guys will be throwing up, a couple guys will be having the shakes, the butterflies, and you can just calm them all down." So there is some value to guys like that in the playoffs. I will say it right now. And I know a lot of my analytics friends will be like, "Oh my God, why don't you shut up about that?" But they're wrong. Like, they're wrong because they've never been in a locker room. They don't understand the dynamic here. This is actually a real, very real thing that happens within every team. There's a reason morale has always been cited as an important thing, whether it's teams or armies or whatnot, just work environment. It's very important. So a guy like Marc-André Fleury, he very much helps that in terms of leadership and morale. So I think he does have value beyond his numbers. But I was just surprised to see, like, it used to be that goalies would go for less than future considerations. You know what I mean? Like, there's never been a market for goalies, really. And and I guess Fleury. Yeah, I thought that was a really good return. Honestly,
yeah.
I feel bad for him though. Like he wants to just settle down, right? Like he's kind of been getting ganked around.
Gets tossed around, man. It sucks.
Yeah.
I was also going to ask you, are you going to be attending the draft in the summer?
Absolutely. No, sorry. My mic just went red there, and that means I'm like I want to really loud. Yeah, we had a few meetings already to talk about it. The Montreal Canadiens are really excited about it. I can speak on behalf of them for that. Here, hold on. Get some Habs gear here. I always have so much garbage hanging around. We're really excited. We're really excited about the playoff. But I can't reveal it yet, but we're gonna try to make this one of the things that always bothered me. I've been to a lot of drafts as fans, or just like I worked the one in Vancouver, I worked the one in Buffalo, Dallas, etc. And I've been to a bunch as a fan, and I feel it doesn't grasp the experience much. You actually get more out of it at home than being a fan. So we're gonna try to make this, and again, no promises, but a little more fun for everyone attending. We're gonna kind of try to make this a big party, like kind of a renewal party for the entire team, the entire organization, and we're gonna do it up. We're gonna do it up big. It's Montreal, right? So, as Michael Farber, who's the best raconteur in the history of sports, and he's just a hero of mine, said, there's Windsor Palace and Montreal Canadiens are essentially the only two people that know how to do ceremony right. Yeah. And I think that's what we're gonna fulfill that, because I mean it's not just a big event for us. It really marks the renewal of the franchise in terms of just the team on the ice. So yeah, I'll be there. I have about 180 beer dates with random people that are coming down, but I told them, like, Montreal doesn't have very many pubs. We're not big on drinking on patios on a beautiful summer day here. It's not something we do very often. But yeah, it'll be great. It'll be fun. And I encourage everyone to come down. We're going to really try to do our best to make the fan experience awesome. Because we recognize, and this is something that was really important to me before I joined the team, but I needed to know, and I mean, listen, they essentially hired me to do this, but we recognize how important the fans are to the Montreal Canadiens. I will tell you, the worst experience I had in my life was in the playoffs last year, was the first two games against Toronto. There were no fans. I was lucky enough to be in the building. There was just like some player family members there. It sucked. It felt like beer league, but with guys getting paid millions. But like, you hear the puck echo against the boards, and it was like that noise you hear at local rinks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and then when Lehkonen scored that overtime winner, again, very privileged, very lucky to be there. It was the best moment I've ever had at the Bell Center, and it was 5,000 fans? I forget, 3,500.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
louder than Carolina's sold out playoff team on their best night. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. To me, it just shows not just the juxtaposition between entertainment when fans aren't there or not. It just shows that hockey is nothing without our fans. Like, we really, and especially in a team that has this rich of a history, I think it's important to recognize the value of the fans in all this, and the new fans too. One of the coolest things I saw during the playoffs was fans, young and old. We saw mothers with their sons, fathers with their daughters, recreating these memories. And we have to be mindful that, yes, the Canadiens have a rich history, but we have to keep building memories, and then stuff like that will stay with people forever. Like that young girl that probably doesn't remember the game, but she does remember celebrating on daddy's shoulders after the game. You know what I mean? So that's how you build new fans. That's how you bridge the gap between, yes, it's a business, but also it's nothing without our supporters. So we're really trying our best. Obviously, you can't reach out to every single fan, but I think the marketing side, the marketing game plan has such a big spot for our fans in there, and we love hearing from them. Every single player I talk to just gushes about, I was speaking to Pierre Gervais just the other day, who is a legend, by the way, 3,000 games in the NHL. His first training camp, Guy Lafleur was the first guy to greet him there, and Larry Robinson and Guy Carbonneau, like, those are 3 Hall of Famers. You know what I mean? So, and he said the coolest thing is that it didn't matter what rink he went to, Habs fans, like more Habs fans than anywhere else, So it's not just Ottawa where it's a home game. You see the games in Calgary and Edmonton, Habs fans. Vancouver, Habs fans. Anaheim, Habs fans. Tampa Bay, Habs fans. Florida, Habs fans, right? So we're incredibly lucky to have all these fans supporting us, and we're really trying to do our best to kind of make you feel like you're part of the group, because we acknowledge we're absolutely nothing without the amazing support of Montreal Canadiens fans. It's the reason we talk about all the players as the reason this is the greatest franchise in the world. No, man. Like, yeah, Béliveau is a god amongst men, and Maurice Richard he did more than just what's on the ice. He basically started the quiet revolution in Quebec. But without the fans, the Montreal Canadiens are just another hockey team. So it's the fans that make the Montreal Canadiens les glorieux. You know what I mean? Like that's why they're the greatest franchise on earth. It's because of their fans.
So Justin and I are really going to keep a close eye on the draft tickets. We were talking about it before. We really wanted to attend. Now you got us excited.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, I can't, like, we just met with sponsors. We're just kind of going through, the paces, trying to figure out what's going on. But like, I really just came into it. I'm like, hey, I kind of crashed the meeting, and I'm like, I've gone as fan, I've gone as media, and now I'm gonna go as as a member of the team, and like, it kind of sucked. It kind of sucked as a fan. I'll be perfectly honest. So we really want to make it a lot more fun. I thought I can't tell you guys exactly what, but I thought a lot of ideas. I want the people that are there to be able to kind of touch and feel like you would when you shop at a store for clothes. So I'm hoping I can give everyone a lot better access. That's and hey, listen, I can't promise you it's going to happen, but so far my bosses were like, yes, absolutely. And I do have to give them credit. Beyond my direct boss, she's my producer, she's my engineer, she writes all my scripts, she organizes all my meetings. She's the best person, and like, that's why everyone always, they're like, Mark, you do such good work. And I'm like, I turn around, she's right there, and she's doing such a good work. I call her Douglas Dave just because it's easier to give her a dude's name in hockey. We joke about that. It's just, anyways, she's amazing. But then our boss also was like, yeah, rubber stamping it. Like, yeah, cool, let's do that. We need to talk to sponsors, but we really want to bring the fan, and that's what we're trying to do with Twitch. That's what we're trying to do with, like, when we come in live at the Bell Center, when we do it every Saturday, either I'm live here, you'll see this exact background. Maybe I'll have taken a shower there before, but and if they're at the Bell Center, I'll be at the Bell Center, because we're just trying to connect. So I will give my producer, she's amazing. I'll give my producer so much credit. Like, without her, I mean, I'm an idiot 99% of the time, and when she's taking care of things, it drops down to 20%, which is absolutely amazing. And our boss is very, like, Shauna is her name. I don't know if you know her, but Shauna Denis, she actually works with she used to be in CWHL. She was a McGill captain when they won the CIS championships. Like, she knows more about hockey than I will ever know, which is funny, because people turn around like, you're the expert. I'm like, yeah, my boss could just dominate me in hockey, like, on the ice, and she's just smarter. Like, in general, she's smarter, she has more experience. But so I thank them for every single time someone says, like, good job. Cool, I appreciate it, but there's a team of people working behind us, really smart, and for the vast majority of them, very smart, hardworking women that are pushing, to me, the most popular brand in Canada, and doing really cool stuff. So I just want to give them credit, because without them, like, allowing me to do this stuff, like, and they give me a lot of rope. Let's admit. Did you guys ever think that the Montreal Canadiens would hire someone like me to, like, go around and, like, I got, you know what I mean? So they give me a lot of trust. They give me a lot of rope to basically, or not a lot of rope, but you know what I mean? Like a lot of
slack.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because rope has a bit of a negative connotation there. But they've been amazing. So I thank Shauna, and I thank my producer in particular. She's been, the last 2 years have been rough on everyone, like COVID and all that, and trying to organize. And she's just the most spectacular person I've ever met in my life. So she prefers to remain anonymous, which I think is a sign of a strength of character in that respect. But big shout out to my boss Shauna and my producer. Absolutely fantastic people. Yeah, some of the most important people. So I don't know if you guys have noticed here. So I'm mentioning Shauna, I'm mentioning France Marguerite Bélanger, I'm mentioning my producer, who's also a woman. Goes to show that behind the scenes right now, for the biggest brand on earth, it's a lot of, or not on earth there, but in Canada, I would say, is a lot of really, really intelligent, hardworking women. And that's just the reality of the world. Like, I know it's stupid to point it out, because we shouldn't be surprised about this, but they don't get enough credit. I'll say that right now. So it's not just Chantal Maccabe, it's France Marguerite Bélanger, it's Shauna Denis. It's like, we have so many, and it's obviously my producer as well.
Amazing. So the Habs next game, we'll wrap it up on this against the Florida Panthers. Ben Sherrod.
Is that their next game?
Yeah.
When is it?
Thursday night.
Oh my god!
Right. Thursday night at the Bell Center. Ben Sherrod returns somewhat. He just
I gotta check my
to
calendar here to figure out if I can.
And usually
I should go to that game, but I don't. I'm tired, guys. I'm really.
we'll
tired.
take your press box tickets.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You know what? I actually wish more people could get to experience the press box.
It's high. It's really high.
It's. We're so lucky. Like, I see some of my. I hope they're not going to listen to this, but I see some of my fellow colleagues just whine about the dumbest shit. And I'm like, guys, like you have the best job in the world. You literally get paid to watch sports, and you have the best angle in the world, and you have free food, and you have free but if there's no Diet Coke that's cold there, it's like rah 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 rah. Like, relax. First of all, you're a sports journalist, and like I can say that because that's what I do, right? But like, relax. There's no Pulitzer coming your way, okay? Like literally, there's 35 other guys that are about to write the exact same story as you. You know what I mean? So, and I'm part of that. Like I'm mocking myself here. So I think sports journalists in general have to take ourselves a little less seriously, and also now there's some serious aspects to it. I'm not trying to say there isn't, but we also need to be a little more appreciative of how privileged we are. There are families that spend 5 years saving up to come to one Montreal Canadiens game. We get to go, like I can go, you know what, guys, I left from the last 2 games early because I mean, trade deadline, I was in the office at 6 a.m. So by the time, I watched the women, no, that was Saturday. See, I'm already confusing. I was watching the Team Canada. I left that game early too, though, because I was so tired. So anyways, just goes to show I'm pretty privileged. And I even leave games early, where these are the type of games that, again, families would just kill to be at. So in general, it's like all the sports journalists, but particularly me and my coworkers, we're really, really lucky to have access to that. It's the best job in the world, man. It's really the best job in the world. A lot of people do it for free. So
you're making me jealous.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I like it's one of the things I really try to do is get as many videos as I can from the press box, just to kind of give people, and people are like, oh man, it's high up. But now I actually did go to Jeff, my good buddy Jeff, Mr. Molson, gave me a few tickets to start the year. And by the way, I can say this, Jeff Molson, like, that's the thing. The other day I called him Mr. Molson. He's like, Jeff, you know, because I hadn't spoken to him in a while, but he always says, call me Jeff, call me Jeff, call me Jeff. This is a guy who I went to his press box as a blogger when I was Eyes on the Prize. And he's like, what do you want? I have all the beer you want. I'm like, can I have a Labatt 50? You know, like I was kind of digging at him there. Obviously, he's a bigger fan of Molson products. And he was like, you son of a, he's like, no. And he laughed. And then he's like, no, seriously, what do you want? I'm like, wine, you know? So I kind of, but he's been genuinely, like, I can say it, Jeff Molson's the one that got me hired. You know what I mean? He saw when I got laid off from the Athletic, and he reached out and he's like, you're coming on our team. Now, again, I want to give credit to my bosses, Sean and John. They're the ones that, like, also, they're big fans of mine, and they've been supportive, not just as a job, but just like, I've had a rough couple of years, you know, just COVID and all that fun stuff. But Jeff Molson is probably the biggest Montreal Canadiens fan there is. And, you know, he gets a lot of criticism, but I think one of the things that he does really well is that he hires intelligent people and he lets them do their things. Now, he eventually pulled the plug on Bergevin, but you have to see things through, right? So I think, and again, it culminated in a cup final, right? Which obviously it's not ideal that they lost, but I do think that most GMs love working for Jeff Molson because he gives them their full support. He doesn't butt his head in. He's not pulling a Eugene Melnick and like double checking your BlackBerry every time you send a text there. You know what I mean? So Jeff Molson receives way too much criticism, in my opinion. And I will say that more than an owner, he's a fan, and he's like so easy to talk to. You know, just the other day I was walking by after a game, and I just walked by. I'm like, hey Jeff, how's it going? You know, and then he's like, Marc, come back. He's like, I just want to say, absolutely love. And he like starts naming articles that, and I'm like, cool. Like the owner's reading my articles. He's like, awesome, thank you so much. You're doing a great job. Like, thank you. And it's like cool. It makes you feel good, you know. So Jeff Molson, genuinely a great guy. Like he does. Like for example, you guys probably don't know this, but he saved the guy's life this summer. Did you guys know that?
Oh really?
No.
A guy on his plane, on his lake, had a water plane and or hydroplane, and it crashed, and Jeff took his boat out and basically saved the guy's life. But he didn't want an article written about it.
Wow.
Not bad. Like, he'll probably get mad right now. He'll be like, "Why don't you shut up about that?" You know what I mean?
Well, if Jeff's listening to this,
we'll make sure
we'll be pretty happy. Yeah,
but he's the kind of owner that most GMs would want, and he's been giving this full support to Hughes and Gordon, and that's crucial. I mean, you want him to ask questions, you want to be involved, but you don't want someone to be like trolling on social media. I won't mention any particular owner or anything that spends $64 million to get a few Twitter hits and then brags about it, because that's pretty. Anyways, actually, you know what? And if Jeff was here right now, he'd be like, "Why are you mentioning that? Like, why are you being petty?" You know what I mean? Like, he's above all this. So I do think the Montreal Canadiens are in great hands with Jeff Molson, and he's honestly he's a bigger fan than all of us. You know, so a lot of people have this billionaire. Sure, I get it, but you'd see him at the pub and you'd have no idea. You know what I mean? So he's really good, and he loves the fans. To him, it's more important. Like, I think it hurts him more than anyone else when the Habs aren't doing so well, because the fans are upset, and it genuinely bothers him, and that's important, man. You want an owner that cares.
Yeah, super important for the team. We usually end our episodes with predictions. I don't know if you'd want to.
Yeah, I can make all. I don't care. I can make all sorts of.
We usually do
random,
bold, like very bold.
I'm not gonna come back and defend the prediction right after, right? Like, maybe I'll come back on your show anytime, but like,
yeah, for sure.
I used to do this on 690, and they're like, "Why do you don't mind making bold predictions?" I'm like, "No, I'm not gonna, like, what? You're gonna call me up and like when it happens? No, this goes away. It's like a fart in the wind. It's gone."
Well, we might tweet at you though. We might tweet at you saying your bold prediction missed. So
sure, yeah, that's fine too. You know what? If it's bad, I'll lie and I'll pretend it never happened. And then if you put the video, I'll be like, Photoshop. I know this is. I know by the pixels. So I know, yeah.
So I'll start us off with 2 goals from Ben Sherratt back at the Bell Center.
This guy crazy. Do you have one, Mark?
What? Sorry, was that a question? I thought you were gonna show me a video there. Was that a question?
No, that's my prediction for Thursday night.
Oh, for Thursday.
Yeah, against Florida. So
is Montembeault in that?
I don't know.
It's a very good question.
I don't know either.
Montembeault shout out.
I was gonna say Jake Allen shout out, but I'll take a different.
Allen did go 2 in a row, right?
Yeah, he did.
I don't know what year we're in. So honestly, sorry, the deadline was like.
No, 100%. I'm sure.
I'll take a first career hat trick from Cole Caulfield.
Yeah, it was one of those 18-hour shifts for me yesterday. Who's first career?
Caulfield. Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
Why not?
It's coming and go. Like, that's like saying, like, I predict Yellowstone will eventually explode. Yeah, I mean, it will. Okay, so other than Montembeault, that's not that fun. A goalie shutout, but like, ex-team and all that fun stuff.
It's true. It is his ex-team.
Yeah.
Come on, give us something fun, Mark.
Yeah, I know.
Something
I'm trying to like
that we can laugh at you at.
I'm gonna say Yoel Armia 4-goal game.
4-goal. I think it's the boldest one we've had on the episode on the podcast.
Yeah,
actually.
He's gonna do Lars Eller and the
Lars
famous
Eller.
Jan Bulis. For those of you that remember Jan Bulis' famous 4-goal night against the Philadelphia Flyers, I believe it was a Tuesday night. He was gonna get scratched that night, scored 4 goals, but yeah, it's Yoel Armia time, man. You know how it goes with Armia, like boom, amazing game, 5 points, and I feel like he's building up to that. He had a goal. Yeah. And then we might not hear from him for 5 games, but then he puts 5 games worth of points up in the 5th game, right? So, Yoel Armia, 4 goals. What did I say? 4 goals? 4 goals and an assist. So
okay, and an assist.
Yeah. I mean, come on, 5-point game. Yeah, absolutely. But like, he'll be like a -1 or something, and people will be like, "Oh, like, why weren't you better in the statistic that doesn't matter?" Yeah. So. I'm on Team Yoel Armia. Absolutely. And awesome. You know what's funny? I will say this. A lot of people thought that he would just fade after the playoffs. I guess our playoffs was at the deadline. I like the effort I saw from Yoel yesterday. Honestly, that was good. And I think even though it was a depleted team, that's what we're seeing now. The Habs are gonna give her, and that's all you want, right? You want a team that tries. So that's the important part, and that's what Martin Saint-Louis brings to the roster.
100%. And we'll end it on that note. Mark, it was an absolute pleasure. We had so much fun. I think I was laughing the whole time. Just great conversations. It was really fun. We really appreciate you joining us, and hopefully we can do this again soon. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know. I'll come back on. I honestly love doing podcasts, and I'm trying to stay away from. Listen, I don't need to go do hits for radio stations right now because they don't need that. They have enough people right now, right? So yeah, let me know. I'll come on, and I love the work, guys. Seriously, this is kind of how I started. So you guys are way ahead of where I was at your age. I'll tell you right now, and you know, it's the type of, obviously no one traded for podcasts, right? Like when we were. Well, maybe you guys did. I don't know, but me, I always tell people when they say like, what should I look out for in sports, or I want to be a journalist, is that you don't know what your job is going to be in 15 years because it doesn't exist yet, right? So you guys getting into this is already, you're ahead of the curve, but you can be able to pivot and adapt. And I love this because this is stuff that I wish I could have done at your age, honestly. So kudos, well done, and yeah, I'll come back anytime. Honestly, I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry I talked a lot.
No, it was amazing.
I'm on like 2 hours of sleep in like 4 days there, so
yeah,
I do apologize for that. Yeah,
we appreciate it.
Was amazing.
But seriously, thanks Mark Anthony, and thanks Justin. There you go. Yeah, I got it right that time.
Yeah,
finished on a right note.
Exactly. So thanks, Joshua, and we're going to. But seriously, I'd love to come back anytime. It was
great, awesome. We really appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.